Thanks for tuning in to the Women's Vibrancy Code, a podcast dedicated to helping women move from exhausted to energized, balance their hormones, and feeling turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves. I'm your host, Maraya Brown. I'm a Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, keynote speaker, and self-made entrepreneur. I'm the founder of my signature program, the Women's Vibrancy Code. So sit back, relax, and let's chat about your energy, hormones, libido, and embracing your feminine power. Oh, and you might want to have pen and paper to take some notes on some of these episodes. Welcome back to the Women's Vibrancy Code podcast. I have Melanie Bonk with me, and we have to laugh just... I was saying to my husband this morning, I'm interviewing a sexpert and her last name is Bonk.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "You're not allowed to make a joke about that." I said, "You know me. Of course I have to say something."
Especially when I use it in my tagline. My tagline is, "I am here to help you bonk better." I mean, you got to use it.
Did you plan that? Did you know all along that you were going to be a bonk expert?
I did not, and it's funny, I was even born on Valentine's Day. So it's just like this, it was just destined in the stars that I was going to help people with this aspect of their lives.
Yeah. When did you know?
It wasn't until recently. It was about 2019 when I started going down this journey, going down this path to really professionally help others. I was always that person who my friends came over and we sat around the kitchen table and we discussed relationships, we discussed sex, we discussed all the juiciness of life of being a woman. And then I kind of realized that I should maybe take this to another level. My kids were getting older. I was looking at that second career path. What do I want to do now that my babies are men? And so it just kind of naturally fell into my lap, and I found this opportunity. And I even kind of said, once the kids are gone, I really want to do this. And my husband goes, "No, this is incredible. You should do this now." And so it was really, he was a huge supporter in that. And then now it's just taken off, and it's really an exciting ride, and a juicy ride at that.
Yeah. And there's something else to the story.
Yes,
because it's a very unique and rare individual that just happens to decide they want to help people with sex and relationships and tantra and play and passion and pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So underneath okay, it's a time in my life. My children are grown. I think I'm wanting this. My husband says, "Why wait?" There must be your own personal story, your own personal journey of sexual liberation that even brought you here. Mm-hmm. So uncover it a little bit more, please.
I think to really unpack it, I have to go all the way back to when I was a young girl. My parents had a really nasty divorce. They continued to have a very volatile relationship through me. I was always the container through that. Even my mother, her parents were divorced. So in the 60s, she was one of the only kids in school who had divorced parents. So when I did come together with my husband, my partner, 25 years ago now, I was already looking at relationships so differently, in such a different conscious lens, because I just knew if I was going to ever make a commitment like that, if I was ever going to really find that person and commit my life with them, it was going to be such a different story. I was going to rewrite this history that lived in my family. So I started diving into what makes a thriving relationship happen. And we started creating, as partners, a conscious relationship where we healed our trauma together, kind of before we even had the vocabulary to say what we were actually doing. So we evolved, we grew together, we were really this team unit, and it was a conscious choice from day one. It was, here's my history. Here's what I'm coming into this partnership with. I cannot relive this. And especially if we have children, I'm not going to do that to my kids. What was done to me, what was done to my mother. So it was really just this historical rewriting of my family story, my family legacy of divorce. And that's really where it gets rooted from.
Wow. The tone just changed. For those of you listening, I'm curious if anyone else felt it. this is not just about bonking
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
sex. This is really about maintaining long, happy, committed relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that, we can laugh about, Melanie magazine calls her a sexpert, and Women Making Moves podcast refers to her as a tantric mystic. But really what I'm hearing is it's about trauma informed um, relationship support through the
Mm-hmm.
lens of, we all have a history of trauma, and it is painting colors on our relationship with our sexuality, our relationship with receivership, our relationship with lovability and our ability to love, all of it. And so it sounds like you actually do work in all of those realms.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me read your bio,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm looking forward to getting into this. So, Melanie Bonk is a trauma informed VITA-certified love, sex, and relationship coach, somatic healer, CrossFit coach, nutrition junkie, wife, and mama. She's on a mission to bring more play, passion, and pleasure into your life with embodied empowerment and radical self love. She works, I was like, okay, are we talking about self pleasuring in the midst of this podcast?
Always.
Uh, she works with those on a solo mission to get out of the head and into their primal pleasure filled body, to experience soulful pleasure and vibrant love, as well as couples who long to experience deeper connection and epic, sacred love making. Ooh, yum. Okay, personal story.
Yes.
This is so fascinating. So I'm going to see if I can shorten this, and I'm really curious to see what perspective you have to offer. So often I work with women, and one of the things I hear often from them is these aren't their words, but when I read it, when I say it back to them, they're like, yes, women feel hunted often in their relationships where they're unhappy sexually. And there's this fine line between feeling hunted versus feeling desired and feeling connected. And the undertone of a woman's arousal system being responsive and a man's arousal system being spontaneous. And what's interesting for me for the last couple of months is I've said, like, my clients don't want to be hunted. I actually want to be hunted. Like, I want to be ravaged. But interestingly enough, this morning, before it was time to pop on this computer, my husband was attempting to suggest we make love. And our lives are so busy right now. Okay. We are recording this mid-May. It's soccer tryouts. It's end of school projects. I have young children. It's making decisions about what we're going to do for our kids next year. It's making decisions about summer camps and summer plans and travel plans and all of the end of the school projects and graduations. And oh, by the way, I need to travel to my cousin's graduation, and my husband's traveling to his grandmother's 100th birthday party. It is so full with an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old in my home. I wanted to respond to him, but there was a moment where I actually felt kind of hunted.
Mm.
And I know it's not his intention, but I just realized I don't even feel like we've looked each other in the eyes and like connected and talked about something that's not work, not logistics, not money, not children, not decisions to be made, not plans. And so it felt kind of clunky. And so, yes, I'll get in the shower with you. But then it was like I couldn't find myself responding because my head was in another place. And then finally it was like, you know what? I just want to sit on the bed naked together and talk. Like, I just want to feel connected. And I want to say, we're not going to talk logistics or money or children or work. I just want to feel connected. And then I'll give you a blowjob. And so we're like racing, and I'm hopping on this podcast. TMI. Do you hear that often? Like, give me some perspective here. What are you hearing through your lens? Where do you step in, and what does support look like? What reframe is needed? Like, give me some advice, yo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that train. We have 4 kids as well, and we are at the 17-year-old twins who just turned 15 and an 11-year-old. So we just got done with ski season, and now we're in this season. So it's creating that space, like you said, to get out, check out of those roles and check back into the role of, wait, I am a sacred lover in this partnership, in this container of desire, of play, of pleasure. And I want the ticket to get on that train. And for me, I know it takes a good, like you said, 15, maybe even 15 minutes to just kind of clear out. I call them the files that are like in my head, like, okay, this is what's next and this and that. And oh, don't forget to do that and sign the kids up for this. So to get out of that cortical thinking, to get out of that busy brain and back into body, back into who I am on a physical level. We carry these meat suits around and we think we live just up in our head, but we are actually alive in this body that we are carrying around. So a quick way to do that for me is movement. I love to do a thing where if I know I am full of those thoughts, full of the preoccupiedness of being a busy woman, movement helps. So I love to do a thing where I am like, okay, yeah, I want to ride you. I want to join this train of joy. But I need to check in. So I will put on a song and we will just stare each other in the eyes, standing on the ground, rooted in the floor, and just breathe. And as we breathe, I unlock my shoulders, I unlock my hips, and we are breathing. And eventually, by the end of the song, we're breathing in sync. Our bodies become a little bit closer. And we are like, oh, yes, we are these primal beings who are wired to experience pleasure. We're wired to experience bliss. And moving, getting out of the brain helps me to dip into that sacred body.
Totally, totally. For me, yes. I think sometimes when we try that because well, we giggle. It feels playful for
Yes.
us. And then by the end of the song, we connected. And there is nothing like my man's hands.
Mhm.
We've been together for 17 years and his hands, I can just look at them and I'm like, oh, and the sound of his voice. There's something about, I don't know. For those listening, and I'm sure you probably have it too, like that, those things that are just like, that gets me every time. For him,
Mhm.
it's when he smells me. And so that's a nice reminder just to go, okay, shut up. Let's not talk.
Mhm.
Put on some music, breathe together,
Mhm.
eye gaze together.
Mhm.
That alone feels like foreplay because there's tension and we're getting out of our heads. And then softly place my body somewhere and put your hands on my body.
Mhm.
Not my boobs, not my vulva,
Yeah.
somewhere on my body
Yes.
until you feel and I feel that I'm responding and I've dropped down and in and the dust has settled. And
Mhm.
there we have it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, like the giggling at the beginning, that's normal. That's us like getting out of our ego shell and into this primal being, into that energy. So the giggle, and that's fun. That's play. We want that. That creates the eroticism, that joy. So having those awkward moments where you're like, this feels really stupid, but then labeling it. So then if you're feeling like that, I'm sure your partner's feeling like that. So don't
Mm-hmm.
just sit there in your own consciousness feeling that. Invite it and create that
Yeah.
conversation, create those moments of joy.
Do you follow Erotic Blueprint at all? The Jaya
With
Love?
Jaya,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, I'm familiar with
Okay.
Jaya.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking because I'm sensual and he's energetic. So he'd be
Hmm.
like, "No, I'm totally into this." There's no
Yeah.
like it's the shit for him. For me, I've got to allow that time and space to get out of my head. What are
Hmm.
you in the blueprint?
I'm energetic as well.
You're energetic as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my husband's
And
sexual, so it's,
oh wow, very different.
yeah, very different.
For anybody listening, you can just type in erotic blueprint. It's a
Hmm.
quiz.
Hmm.
It says you have to pay $17. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page. You don't have to pay. It's the free one. It's great.
Hmm.
Um, okay, I feel like I'm going to jump ahead to what I usually ask at the end of the podcast, but it feels relevant for the rest of our conversation. how do you work with your clients? Is most of your work online? Are you doing retreats? Or I know you and I are both creating our own courses with NABA, which is a whole nother conversation. So there's obviously online course creation, but um, how do you work?
Yeah, I do. Mainly my clients are Zoom. Do have space in town. Retreats are something that I'm going to be starting soon. I'm super, super jazzed about that. But most of my clients are on Zoom, and even clients that I have locally in town, some of them prefer to be Zoom because then they can be in their own space and really relax and get that really embodiedness in space. And then they can just segue into, when I work with clients, I can sometimes just say, okay, now our session is now complete, but you guys have communicated, have created safety, have created sacredness, and this bubble of safety is all around you. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit the end on our Zoom button, and you continue to go on your own journey.
Okay.
So
So
there's
it's mainly couples. Do you do any one-on-one work?
Oh yeah, I do one-on-one, and sometimes even I'll come with a couple. I'm working with a woman right now who they came to me as a couple first, and they were kind of looking for more of the tantra, more of getting into sacred sexuality, but her body was holding so much trauma she couldn't access that quite yet. So now I'm working with her
Mm-hmm.
individually, and then we're going to loop back around together as a couple in the long run.
Okay. And for those that are listening and have heard of Tantra but don't know what it is, what is
Mhm.
Tantra?
It is bringing spirituality into anything from doing dishes to driving your kids to school to your sexuality to your pleasure. So sacred sex or sacred spirituality, finding God energy, goddess energy, godex energy in your pleasure. And it's really
Mm.
new age tantra is where it dives into your pleasure. So I find that it has taken my partner and my husband, our sexual experiences into the cosmos. So it from being just physically connecting, physically experiencing pleasure to our spirit level, our souls are riding this different wave that's just so high and incredible, where before we were kind of just in the body as like primal beings on the planet having sex. I think that it's bringing that spirituality in, and then like I said, it falls into every aspect where I am in service. I am in love with everything. I am in love with the people that frustrate me and the people that I road rage at. I'll do a road rage now, and then I go, and I love you. I hope you learn how to use a blanker. I love you.
I had one of those last weekend. Well, it was the first my daughter had ever seen. She was like, "Mom, what just happened?" It's like that man could use some courtesy and some generosity. And I hope he gets out of Ashland, Oregon. This town does don't live here. This is a place for people that are generous and kind.
That's right.
And I love you anyway. I hope you have a great day.
Yep, that's it. So it's
Okay.
real. It's finding I can look out my window right now and I'm seeing this beautiful tree move, and I'm seeing the spirituality in that tree and the wind and the
Mm-hmm.
breeze, and knowing that I'm a part of that tree and that wind and the breeze, and that tree is a part of me. So it's really opening up your whole vibration field to this radical love for everything. And that includes
Okay.
the wounds, that includes the trauma, that includes the ickiness and the stickiness, because in all of those wounds, in all of the ickiness is lessons that you get to hold on
Mm-hmm.
to. And
Mm-hmm.
then it turns into your superpower as opposed to something that just crumbles you.
Cool. That's Tantra. What a fun definition. Um, what percentage of women do you think fake orgasms and don't have orgasms?
Oh, like above 90%.
You think above
I
90%?
think above 90. I mean, let's be honest.
Wow.
I've faked before in my life. I don't do it now, but I have. So I'm in that group.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know if I ever have, but I'm surprised. I'm fascinated. I actually was talking to a client again yesterday. I didn't know this, but she had had three children with her husband, and he was the one that finally said, you know, you've never had an orgasm before. And she was like, wait, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, that, like, you've never actually had an orgasm. And I'm starting to wonder if I'm the right partner for you. She's like, wait, what? And so they did this deep dive and went on a big journey together. And now it's
Wow.
completely different. And, but I was thinking through going, over the last number of years, I've had a lot of clients, you know, 30s, 40s, even 60s that have never in all of their life had an orgasm. Not anymore.
That's right.
Not on my watch. So, okay, you think more than 90% have faked it at some point. What percentage of women do you think maybe don't even, they say, I don't know. I'm like, listen, if you have a sneeze, you know you've sneezed. If you don't know if you've had an orgasm, you have not had an orgasm.
Not had an orgasm.
So, do you work with very many clients that have actually never had a big O?
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of my biggest clienteles that come in and it's very interesting to find out the motivation as to why they're coming in for help with that. You know, is it them that want it or are they doing it for somebody else? And so those are the layers where right away I'm like, we're going to readdress this to you. What do you desire? What do you feel? So it's the motivation, I think, behind it is even so lost in women. Right. You know, I think there's an epidemic of numb pussies in this planet. And to connect to that pleasure, connect to this birthright that we have of divine orgasms, it's so foreign because we're so numb.
Well, and even that, to say that it's a birthright to have orgasms, there are people listening that are triggered and uncomfortable and want to stop this podcast. So don't turn the podcast off. Keep listening. Stay with us. But there's so many layers to old guilt and shame and trauma and sexual abuse and many times religious kind of constraints around it's dirty. I mean, I had a client of mine, it's so crazy. I mean, this is an extreme example, but her mom had an affair with their preacher. And then he was sexually abusing her. And all along teaching her that it's shameful and she should feel guilty and she's sinning if she's desiring. I'm like, now that's one of the negatives. I'm sure there's plenty of individuals that grew up in highly spiritual religious homes where maybe there was examples of love being expressed. But just the statement of saying it's a birthright to feel pleasure, it triggers a lot of people.
Yeah. I just met a woman last week and her parents would give them all of her siblings $5,000 on their wedding day if they didn't even kiss until they got married.
Wow.
Kiss.
Yeah. I go, okay. If marriage is a financial business agreement, okay, fine. If marriage is a love agreement, okay, we exchange love with all sorts of individuals, but our sexual relationship within a marriage is one of the things, not the only, but one of the things that really keeps the sanctity of that relationship different than all others. Now, there are marriages that have open sexual relationships. I'm not saying that that's not a possibility, but the majority would you say the majority of marriages are monogamous? Probably not.
I would say so.
They
Still
are?
the majority. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's 1 in 7 adults right now are in marriage that have little to no sex. So 1 in 7. Just imagine that walking down the grocery aisle next time you go grocery shopping. 1 in 7. No to little sex.
You think it's because they're so unhealthy, they just don't have any desire? Go ahead.
There's that. There's unhealthiness. There's the whole, what we talked about earlier, kids, jobs, everything else is stacked up on top of pleasure, and pleasure's not even maybe on the 3rd page of list of priorities.
And I'm guessing that's a stat within the US.
I'm guessing that.
it's like a American phenomenon, maybe or North American phenomenon, probably.
I'm
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that one. But yeah, 1 in 7.
1 in 7. Okay. So for the individuals that are feeling triggered by this conversation already, what do you say to them?
I say that there's people like you and me out here who have tools, because every human has the potential to have that birthright of pleasure. So
Mhm.
I teach my clients holistic health tools. That means they are available to every single human alive. And those holistic sex tools can create full body bliss for every human, male and female. So yes, a male can have a full body head to toe orgasm. Yes, every female has the potential to have full body head to toe. I like I know it's a good orgasm when it's like shooting out my fingers, even like, oh my God.
Yes.
So but no one teaches us. And so
Mm.
that is not your fault. This trauma, this influence from religion, from society, from movies, from everything, from the minute we are born is stored in our nervous system as an imprint. We didn't ask for that. We weren't conscious of making a choice when you were little children saying, yes, I would like to subscribe to this version of religion, or I'd like to subscribe to this way of thinking. None of us asked for that. So the very first step is creating that consciousness that you have this option, and then right away meeting yourself with compassion.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong with you. There is no shame. These just things they weren't like the ABCs and 2 + 2 is 4 taught to you as young kids. And that is one of the reasons why I'm also so passionate about talking about how to create um, households that are sex positive, that are pleasure positive, because we
Mhm.
can start to really reshape the whole narrative around pleasure in our young population. And just imagine what that's going to look like when these kids grow up and they don't have to do this. It just like changes the vibration of the
Mhm.
planet.
I love that you said pleasure positive. That was the piece that kept popping into my head is
Mm-hmm.
if you're listening and it's just too much to be talking about full body orgasms, just to simply, it's like, I remember when I was really, really sad, like I was at a really dark, heavy, depressed place in my life. And I spoke on the phone with my dad, and my dad's like, well, you just have to choose joy. And it was like, motherfucker, I want to punch you in the face. What do you like? I am 5'1" and you're asking me to jump across a river. Okay, give me some stepping stones.
Mm-hmm.
And I can take one step at a time and I will get to that other side. And so, in the context of this conversation, if it feels like too big of a leap to go, oh, what if I reframe my relationship with pleasure? And there's a stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's big enough that you can put both feet on it. And now you're in the water, but you're not getting wet and you're okay. And so, for someone who's like, okay, I can start there, I can reframe my relationship with pleasure, self pleasure, pleasure as power.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to that individual?
Oh, I say yes, yes. And I would say, look at pleasure as this big scope. So pleasure doesn't really need to be immediately, I'm going to touch my genitals and start pleasuring myself. That's a big step. That's like maybe 2 or 3 stepping stones in. Maybe just the way I put on lotion in the morning. I'm going to do it instead of, I remember before I was kind of conscious of the way I was treating myself, I would slap on the lotion and kind of just whap it on like I was a cow. And now I give myself a whole minute to 2 minutes in the morning, and I put on that lotion or I put on that oil in such a sacred way. I'm putting
Mhm.
on that lotion as I would if I am a goddess, because I am a goddess. And just by making those little changes, oh, you know what? I'm going to take a bubble bath. I'm going to give myself 20 minutes to sit and relax. That sounds pleasurable today. Oh, I'm going to pick up this book that I've been wanting to read and reading 20 minutes a day. So it's finding ways to increase pleasure that are not necessarily even physically touching your genitals yet.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking my example, this drink here. If anybody's been watching me drink it, being curious. On Mother's Day, it was such a beautiful day. There was nothing planned, no expectations. I didn't have to show up at any like brunch and get all dressed. That's not what excites me. My son woke me up and said, I want to take you on a date. Mom, where do you want to go?
Huh.
Like, oh, he's 11. He's so sweet. And we just flowed and we like went to a place and the line was too long. So we went somewhere else. And I, and there's a reason I'm telling this story. And then there's this just flow to the day, which was so perfect. Same thing, time with each of the children, time with my husband, time to just rest, be spontaneous. And they just let me, there's no letting me, but I just chose to, this is what I'm doing right now. And it's like, I'm going out the door, I'm just going to go for a walk. And I realized I want a really yummy juice. I want to do a juice cleanse. And so I popped on Instacart and I ordered all the things that I wanted: the celery, the carrots, the ginger, the beets, the cilantro, the cucumber, the apples. And, it's going to arrive at the front doorstep in this window of hours. And I just allowed myself, this is what I want. And so when it all arrives, can you guys bring out the juicer and would you juice all of it? Like, I want a gallon of this juice. And over the next few days, I'm going to do a cleanse. And so as I'm sitting here on this podcast, it might look like, what is she drinking? But I have my glass jar and I have my stainless steel straw and I'm listening. But every time I'm taking a sip, it is offering me so much pleasure. Mm-hmm. It's pleasure not just in the taste and not just and I know that I'm doing good for my body inside, but also what it represents. That I allowed myself just to be in full receivership of what do I really long for, call it in, and they were thrilled to do it, and it became a project that they did together, and it feels so good.
Yeah.
So, okay, so there's like obviously spectrum of pleasure. Mm-hmm. And to go into this pleasure positive way of being. I also hear that you relate pleasure with power.
Yes.
Elaborate there. Where's that relationship?
Well, I really believe that when you give yourself pleasure, whether it's a juice, whether it's a massage, whether it's self-play, you are giving yourself power. So as you give yourself pleasure, you give yourself power. And that's really stepping into a whole vibration field of ownership. I'm giving myself pleasure because I deserve pleasure. I'm worthy of pleasure. And then that trickles down into every aspect of your life. I really believe that's true. This person who's not so positive doesn't give me so much energy. They're an energy sucker. All of a sudden, I'm more conscious of like, that was not a pleasurable experience. I'm now going to have a boundary with that person. So when you're in touch with pleasure, you can really start to create this whole field of doing things that are pleasurable for you. And then you create boundaries for the things that aren't. It just flows over, especially as women in business, women who are on any kind of stage. When you walk into a room and you see that air of that confidence, that vibration, that like energetic field, and you're kind of like, ooh, I wonder what did she have for breakfast? Well, she had an orgasm and a big ass jar of juice.
And I gave a blowjob too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. When we're coming from the place of acknowledging what offers me pleasure and in what scenarios, or love, like you think about seed of the soul. Am I coming from loving parts of my personality or fearful parts of my personality? Mm-hmm. Am I coming from a pleasurable part of my way of being, or what's the opposite of pleasure? I don't know.
Are you living in story, living in wound, living in victim? Mm-hmm. That's a lot of the work that I do with my clients is creating new imprints of those stories. So mm-hmm. I know when I get stuck in my victim story, I can't access pleasure. I can't access joy. I am in the loop of victim. Mm-hmm. And now quickly I can kind of, not all the time, I'm a human, but now quicker, I'm like, whoa, okay, stop everything I'm doing. I am in a huge victim story. Breathe into my body, feel that somatically. Where am I feeling that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Hi, I'm feeling it in my solar plexus. Hi, I see you. Hi, I'm aware that you're there. And right now I'm aware that you're controlling my thoughts. You're controlling my body, my energy. okay, I'm going to meet you with love and compassion. And
Mhm.
this is the training, and it takes reps. It's just like going to the gym, just like going to do push-ups. You can't do 20
Mhm.
push-ups out of nowhere. You have to build up. So it's continuously meeting yourself with love and compassion and consciousness.
Yeah. So, and as we're paying closer attention to decisions that we made, people we've been around, victim stories that we're in that really don't feel good. They feel heavy, they feel sluggish, they feel like it brings us in a place of fear or scarcity or comparison or jealousy. Then where the power comes in is allowing ourselves to make different choices and to listen
Mhm.
inside and say, I choose love, I choose pleasure. And in that choice, it's practicing and um, putting my power into motion.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
imagine for some, I was going to say it feels really good, although for some, it might also feel really confronting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just read something that it's proven that it's only 90 seconds to let emotion flow through your whole body. Anything on top of that, you're in thought, you're a loop, you're thinking, you're allowing that
Mm,
story to take over your life. 90 seconds, that goes by so fast. But I know if I get super raged about something, it lasts more than 90 seconds. That's a cue for me to make a choice. Okay, wait, what's in control? Do I want to let that be in control, or do I want to come back to that divine love? Do I want to come
mm,
back to looking at that tree flowing in the breeze and being like, oh my gosh, I love
right.
you. I love me. I'm so in love with being a part of the planet right now.
Mm. And I imagine it plays out in how we parent as well. Like, am I
Yes.
catching myself explaining something to the children and I've crossed over the 90-second rule? And they're probably completely like in the Charlie Brown wah, 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 wah.
Mhm.
Where can we shorten our emotional tantrums? Where can we shorten our over justifying? Um, and so, in what other areas do you notice yourself trying to condense down this 90-second experience?
Like you said, with parenting is huge. Now I take when something comes up. There was a really beautiful thing that came up where I've got twins and they both wanted something, and my husband was on a computer and I was on a computer, and we were doing the typing and the clicking and we both had one of the things in the cart, and we were like, we got this. But then his computer did an address verification. Oh, and then by the time he verified his address, boom, it was gone. So then we only had one of this one particular thing that both twins threw down money for and wanted so bad. And I just said, okay, we're going to talk about this tomorrow. Like, I can't even right now. Your emotions are too high. My nervous system is totally jacked from being like on the computer and typing. And I just can't. So I pulled away because I know that there is no way anything I could say could come out as beneficial for them. And there's no way that they could even hear what I was trying to say because their nervous system was so jacked, and
Mm,
their desire system was on just overflow. So I gave myself, as a parent now, I give myself so much more time. Like, okay, we're going to maybe have a conversation about this tomorrow evening, even. It's going to be more than 24 hours because I need to figure out where I stand when I'm not in that nervous system response cycle. I am grounded. I am in that space of love and compassion.
yeah. Well, and if you wait 24 hours, the energy's probably lost its charge as long as you found a way to release it.
Yeah.
And so either they left, the children are left feeling neglected and not important and as though their needs weren't met, or they're left going, oh, wow, what a cool example that I can step away when I'm feeling emotionally charged in a way that's irrational and wait, express the emotion a different way, not at
Mhm.
someone else, but within myself and come back.
Mhm.
And so you're incorporating these aspects of trauma informed and pleasure as power and awareness of body sensations and emotions and choosing when to dig into something versus stepping away. You're integrating that into how you parent.
Absolutely. In fact, I just had the pleasure of seeing you up on stage at a conference, and there was a very activating moment, and you had the whole entire group of women breathe in through one side of the
Oh,
nostril,
yeah.
out, breathe
Yeah.
in and the out. And I just, I think it was like an evening, a couple days later, and I said, "All right, guys, let's all sit down in the living room." And it was actually all four of my kids and a girlfriend, so there was five of us. And I'm like, we're coming up on exams, and I know how I felt during exams when you kind of sit down with your pencil, and here comes the Scantron, which I don't even know if they use Scantrons anymore. But I gave them your breathing tool, and I said, this is a way you can regulate your breath, your nervous system right before you take that test. This is a life hack that now you have as an option. And then I said, this is something that I love to do. I love to ground in my feet. So right now, feel your feet on the floor, noticing if you're wearing socks, noticing the carpet, noticing what the textures are. So absolutely, I sprinkle this stuff in, and I sprinkle in sacred sexuality into what I teach my kids. Like I said, if we are empowering these kids now, what's the future going to look like? It blows my
Yeah.
mind as to what they can create.
Well, and this, I mean, it brings up such a big conversation, but it's so striking to me that with movies and media and television, there can be blood and guts and shooting and gore and open wounds, but God forbid show some nipples.
Mm-hmm.
And sexuality is shown as, for the most part, very male dominated, very quick. She orgasms quickly. And there's not a whole lot of deep love and connection and tenderness.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what is being taught and what is seen as okay versus not okay? And so then we go, all right. Now we move into a family dynamic where 60% of women have a history of childhood sexual abuse. We've got this onslaught of old guilt and shame and whatever upbringing stuff we've dealt with, mixed in and sprinkled in with what messages are being shared through common media. And so, where do we begin for parents that are going, okay, I've got young children, tweens, teens, and beyond, to try to teach these children that pleasure can be powerful and that love and connection can feel sexual, but do it in a way, I don't know. What are your thoughts? How do you guys do it as parents within your home?
Well, we definitely have our bedroom is our sanctuary. That's one of the, for me, I need to step into that space once that door closes, and I need to know that this is a space for me, for my sexuality, for my pleasure, for my love, for my husband. We don't have any family photos in our bedroom. We have boudoir photos from sessions we've taken. We've got our wedding photo. We've got just pictures of us on vacation. It's like our sacred space to remember that's what's first. Our
Mm,
connection is what's first. And so that trickles down into almost all of our interactions. It's mom and dad first, then the kids. It's not
mm.
kids, then, oh yeah, then I'm married to this guy.
Well, and it seems like the kids also know when mom and
Yeah.
dad go into the bedroom and the door is
Mm-hmm.
closed, we love each other and we might make love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
okay because we've been
Yeah.
married and we made you guys and we love each other. And that's what happens within a loving
Yeah.
marriage.
Yeah. My husband took the twins to a spring break trip. Just the three of them went. And so I had the two other ones at home. And it was like the day before. And I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. My boyfriend's coming home. I just can't wait. And then my youngest, who's 11, he goes, oh, I better charge my headphones. I'm like, yeah, you should. It's going to get rowdy.
And so then there might be some people that just think that that's the worst thing ever. Like, oh,
Yeah.
what a horrible mom. And we go, all right, where does that come from?
Mm-hmm.
Where does the, for, if any of you listened and you had that kind of reaction, like she lets her children hear it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I think an eagle just flew in front of the window.
Yeah. Spirit eagle. Ah.
So wow, I've
That's
never
crazy.
seen an like, huh, okay. What was I saying? Oh,
We're
for people responding like, oh my God, she lets her kids
yeah,
hear it. What do you say
yes.
to that?
Oh, yeah. I say, don't you want to set the tone for what a healthy, thriving relationship looks like for your kids? Where else are they going to learn it? Because they're not going to learn it from the movies. They're not going to learn it from TV. They're not going to learn it from Instagram.
Not from their
It
peers.
not from their peers. It has to start in the home. You're their
Mhm.
example. You're who they're going to mirror most likely anyways in relationship.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's like the cosmic joke that our inner children wounds are only triggered by our romantic partner. And then you typically respond as our parents did in those triggered situations. So if we know that already and we're aware of that kind of, and you can take a moment and even look in your own life how you act in conflict. Am I like my mom or my dad or my caregivers? Am I triggered by really what's true to me or what happened to me as a little kid?
Mm.
So then you can start creating that household and this family unit of different. We are the ones who can rewrite the history of our parents, of our ancestors. And so it's like it's another empowerment tool. I feel like it's really giving them that step up. And now I witness my oldest in a partnership, and he's been with this particular person for like a year and a half. And sometimes I turn the corner and they're like kissing and making out in the kitchen. And I'm like, internally, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. But then I'm like, well, shit, that's what my husband and I do. So I can't. And I said that one time. I'm like, oh, guys, come on. And they're like, that's what you do. So you can't even give us shit. And I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, you're right. I'm like, I'm sorry. It's just my reaction because I made you from scratch, little
Mhm.
person, baby who's now a man.
But it is a reaction and it is
Mhm.
a sticky topic.
Yeah.
It's a sticky topic, particularly in kind of Western society or North American upbringing. I imagine, what the time I've spent in Thailand and the little that I know about India and the time that I've spent in France and Spain, it's such a different context. Um, and to go, huh, all right, if my first reaction is judgment or my first reaction is um, feeling like that's wrong, to go, okay, what part of me is that coming from?
Yeah.
Is that coming from a trauma informed place from my childhood? Is it coming from conditioning that was given to me? And do I want to carry forward? And so, what a cool opportunity for us to just be in the place of self reflection. And there I am again. What if I
Yeah.
come from a place of self curiosity versus judgment of others or judgment of self? Okay, I'm aware of time. Anything that feels unsaid for you? We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think just to cap off on the kid thing, having open conversations all the time and not pretending that you know it all. That's been the biggest gift that I think I've given my kids is they have the opportunity to come to me and say, Mom, I don't I don't think this went well for me and here's why this happened. And then I say, "Oh, I really want to thank you for bringing that to me because this is the first time I've been a parent of a 17-year-old. I've never done
mhm,
this before."
mhm.
And then that creates such a open communication and consciousness around the fact that we're all learning together. And I think that's just a beautiful gift that you can give yourself and that you can give your kids.
And I imagine that's the same in partnership too.
Yeah. Hmm.
Man, I've just in those last few weeks gone, ooh, my relationship with saying I'm sorry is a sticky one.
Mm.
So I'm going, all right. All these years into a marriage, all these years into being a daughter, all these years into being friends, all these years into being a mother, and to look back at, where was their opportunity to come in and just say, I don't know, or say, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
And that one's a tough one for me. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
All right. For those that are listening and they want to find you, who reaches out to you? How do they reach out to you? What might they reach out to you for?
You can reach out to me if you are looking to create that relationship with your pleasure that is sacred, that is divine. And if you're looking for that full body, or even just, I want to dip my toes in the river, but I'm really scared and I need somebody, because this stuff has to be taught. You can find me at on Instagram at Bonk Better. My website is melaniebonk.com. And I would love to offer your listeners a pop-up pod experience. So if you go to melaniebonk.com/pod, P-O-D, you can enter your email and I will send you 3 somatic practices, 1 per week for 3 weeks, kind of just dripping in your email box. They're really short, sweet, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And you can start creating a little more embodiment, a little more sacred experiences inside of your body, inside of these meat suits that we carry. It's a really juicy experience.
Cool. Thank you. And so Instagram, reach out, email, reach out, somatic practices, reach out. Melanie, I'm grateful for you, grateful for the work that you do in the world. I'm grateful for our time, and this conversation was weaving in all different unexpected directions, and it's been fun for me. So thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for creating this space.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.